I want to record a short video on fluid compartments. This was a question that came up from the homework this week, and it's something that is important to be able to conceptualize and also understand as we move throughout the entire year. What are the different compartments that contain fluid in the human body? So first I want to show you a couple pictures here with the different fluids labeled in each one. First one, so this one you've seen before. I showed you an image of the cell, and the cell contains the plasma membrane surrounding it, the nucleus that contains DNA, and then the cytoplasm. This is like your basic, most simple image of a cell. The cytoplasm contains what two components? Contains cytosol and the organelles. So organelles are all those various structures that you've reviewed. Cytosol is actually the liquid itself. So the aqueous or watery solution that's inside of cells. What's another name for cytosol? Another name is intracellular fluid. The cytosol is the intracellular fluid. So that's one of those fluid compartments. The fluid inside the cells, intracellular fluid, or ICF, is a large amount of the fluid that's inside of our bodies. Outside of the cells, then, there's extracellular fluid, or ECF. So these two are two really big, important, and broad categories of fluids in the body. Inside the cell, outside the cell. But, of course, it's more complicated than that. One last thing in here. Those two compartments are separated by your plasma membrane. So ICF and ECF are separated by a plasma membrane. Okay. The ECF, however, is also broken down into the interstitial fluid and plasma. Interstitial fluid is the fluid that's in the tissues. Interstitial means in the tissues. So out in the ECF out here, get my drawing back, you've got tissues out here. I'm just going to draw some fibers, maybe a single cell out there. The fluid that's a part of those tissues, that's in between the tissues, but outside of the cell, that is your interstitial fluid. But also outside of cells is blood plasma. So that's the other component that is part of ECF. I've got a couple other pictures that help to show this better. So here's one image that shows the breakdown of the ECF better. First of all, we still have our intracellular fluid inside a single cell here, inside this cell here. Then outside of that, we've got extracellular fluid. The two components are the fluid, the interstitial fluid that's in between all these cells, making up all that ground substance that's in between the cells, variable amounts in different tissue types. Then we've got our blood plasma, so the fluid that's inside the vascular system. These two are both types of extracellular fluid, or ECF. Last image here. Clear this. So the body fluid compartments, we're looking at the total body water. What's all the components of water or fluid inside the body? The two main components are ICF, that's inside the cells. That's 2/3 of the entire water in your body, so the majority. But ECF is also still important, makes up 1/3, that's extracellular fluid, everything outside of the cells. So if we were going to show this image that breaks these things down, here we go. Intracellular fluid, that's just one giant compartment. Well, it's many, many, many separate compartments that add up to this much. Each individual cell, of course, has a plasma membrane that separates it from the outside of the cell, so the extracellular fluid. The extracellular fluid then is broken into two components. Separated from the plasma membrane is the interstitial fluid. So this would be, got our cell here, ICF inside, ECF is right outside, and specifically, this is the interstitial fluid. It is going to be most often the fluid compartment that is directly surrounding these cells. Then the other component you have is going to be the plasma fluid. So this is separated from the interstitial fluid via a capillary endothelium, which is actually made up of cells, but it is separating these two separate compartments. So if this is the ICF, then we've got this blood vessel going by. The plasma is going to be in there. So the ISF, the interstitial fluid, and the actual plasma is going to be separated by this lining right here, which is the capillary endothelium. I want to real quick, because this made me think, I want to go back to this first image I showed you. So here, clear this. This ECF specifically that's right outside of the cell, this is going to be your ISF typically. So this is the one that's going to be directly surrounding the majority of the cells in your body. The exception for that is the capillaries, the blood vessels themselves. Those cells on one half do have blood plasma. All right, please let me know what questions you have on these fluid compartments.